All right, everyone. So now that we've learned the basics of Excel, let's go ahead and get started on building our poker tracking template. So just to give you a little heads up about how the course kind of goes, I mean, obviously it's all in Excel. What I'll do is I try to keep the lectures, the videos to about 5 to 7 minutes if I can. So we'll just kind of get as far as we get, and then I'll cut them off and we'll pick it up right up in the next video. So things might be a little bit, I try to do one thing at a time. But sometimes we have to maybe cut a video off halfway through something. If you have any questions during the course, definitely send me a message through the course website. It really helps if you tell me which lecture it is and sort of what timestamp it's at. Maybe I do something in Excel and you didn't quite catch what I did. You're not able to figure it out. That's totally fine. Sometimes I forget maybe to explain something that I just take for granted and maybe someone else doesn't know how to do. So just send me a message. Happy to explain how to do it. I'll try to explain anything that I'm doing that I think maybe you may not know. And from there, yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. So essentially at the end, the way I typically build any type of Excel sort of project is I like to think about it first, like what's my ultimate end goal, and then I can start structuring it. And then as we start to put it together, we might move some things or change something, but it'll kind of build itself almost in a sense. Obviously, we have to build it, but so the first thing I'm thinking, ultimately, we're going to have two different sheets. One will be where we basically track all of our data. So every sort of poker event, whether it's a tournament we enter or it's a cash, we sit down for a cash game, that's what I would consider an event. We'll track things like what date was on, where were we, how much time did we spend, what did we buy in for, what did we cash out for, and then we'll calculate things like profit per hour, etc. So we'll do all that in here. So this will be just sort of a running, ongoing list. On the second sheet, and that'll be the second part of the course, we'll build more poker reports. So I'm going to create for you just different reports. So like by month, and typically, the way I like to structure things is by month. So by month, what was my overall earnings per hour? That's what I'm really kind of trying to zone in on. I want to make sure I'm getting a good profitable per hour rate. But then as well, we'll then further break it down and say, okay, well, what was my earnings per, for tournaments versus cash games, for different types of games, etc., for different locations. So there's lots of different ways to do it. So we'll build some of those and kind of point you in the right direction. Then as well, I'll just mention at the end of the course, you can download this template. So whatever we build during the course, you can download exactly what we build here. I'm going to make it available. So it'll be for download either with the course in general or on the course conclusion video. That's where you should look for this to be a downloadable item. So, all right, so if you go ahead and open up, so just going back to that really quick, if you just want to follow along, but then just download what it is that I build at the end, that's perfectly fine. Or obviously, if you took the course, you probably maybe want to build your own. Definitely encourage you to follow along, pause the videos, whatever the case might be. So all of that said, let's go ahead and briefly get started. We're already up to 3 minutes. So go ahead, open a new workbook. You're going to want 2 sheets at least, depending on how you have your Excel set up. Sometimes it defaults to 3, sometimes it defaults to 1. You can add additional sheets with the plus sign. And you can obviously work with the sheets. If you right-click on any of them with your mouse, brings up a menu. So I'm just going to delete that additional sheet. I encourage you to save your file. Now, I've already saved mine, so I called mine Poker Tracking Template. Use whatever naming convention you prefer. Sometimes I would also put on a date, like the date last updated almost, just so I know when it was last updated, and save it somewhere where you remember it's going to be. I'd encourage you to turn on autosave if you can. I saved to an online drive, so it won't let me turn it on for whatever reason. That's fine. I just hit save or Control S every once in a while and save my file out. So last thing, since this video is already getting a bit long, so before we start doing anything, let's just go ahead and rename our sheets, and then maybe we'll call it quits for this lecture, and then we'll actually start on building in the next one. So I'm going to call this Poker Tracking, and I'm going to call this one Poker Reports. Okay, so obviously we'll start with the tracking. I think that's it in terms of anything we can do other than actually start building this thing. So let's go ahead and cut this video off, and then we'll dive right in.